Just a reminder before today's programme, the previous instalment of AMTV Radio is available to listen to, with our special guest, Josh Snares. And now, time for the latest instalment of AMTV Radio, with our special guest, Harry's Haunted House. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to AMTV Radio. This is the podcast where I'm joined by a very special guest each time, and we wax lyrical for an hour about, well, whatever we want to, really. And this time I am joined by a very special guest indeed. It's a content creator I've admired for a good few years now here on YouTube. He's the guy who tells you if it sucks or not. I am joined by Harry's Haunted House. Harry, thank you so much for coming on today.
No problem, man. Hello to everybody and everybody around the world.
That's a great intro. Accessible worldwide. I like it. But the first question I've been asking all my guests, Harry, really, is just, as you're probably aware, in 2020, the world's kind of gone to shit, quite frankly. You know, everything's going wrong. It's all, you know, a great start to a new decade. If you don't mind me asking, how have you personally found everything with the pandemic? Has it affected you greatly or not so much? Or,
I mean, I could probably start by saying that on top of a high horse, it has obviously affected everybody very much. But I'm very fortunate. I consider myself very fortunate that I made the move to start working from home around November last year, and that has been like the norm for me before lockdown was even a thing. So I haven't really changed my situation, only in that there have been a sort of there was definitely a move to find time to get out of the house every now and again and not just spend all day long editing videos and writing scripts and the like. So and obviously any attempts to do that, be it to find new hobbies and the like, have kind of been shut down. So that has been my biggest kind of sadness, I should say, with regards to the current situation. How have you been keeping up, man?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I was really gutted when it sort of took hold here in the UK, because when I'm not doing YouTube, I'm a professional actor by trade. That's what I trained in and stuff.
That's awesome.
So a very elusive job at the best of times. And I mean, the industry's kind of dead at the minute. So, but never mind. But back then in March, I was actually rehearsing for it was a brand new musical that was going to tour around the Yorkshire area where I'm from, called No Horizon. And it was my first time being cast as the lead in something like that. So I was quite excited. And we were 2 days away from opening night, and then we got the call we had to stop because a little pandemic had just begun. So yeah, it is what it is. You know, I'm not bitter or anything. You can't help it. It was the right decision. But I think initially I was quite gutted, and I sort of lost a lot of motivation and drive. But then I just bounced back with YouTube. I started uploading daily, which is something I'd never done before. And yeah, it's been all right. I've enjoyed I'm sure you have this as well. Like, you know, when you just have like waves of creativity and you have so many ideas that you want to make for YouTube and so many things you want to try, and you just step forth with it. So it's been a real sort of creative zenith for me during this lockdown. But not on the whole, though, I'm glad to hear you've coped with it, you know, relatively well in the grand scheme of things. It's fantastic. And just for anyone who isn't aware of like yourself or the work on your channel, could you just summarize like the kind of videos you make and what you're all about here on YouTube?
Oh yeah, sure. So as Adam said, I am pretty much the man who asks if it sucked or not. That is the selling point of the channel. Mainly, I mean, I've kind of flitted flirted with different types of reviews, and mainly relating to TV shows and movies, whether that be a review or just kind of having a look at it and picking apart what is just so flipping great about it. You have more than, I mean, most people who are not like subscribed but may have on the off chance seen a video of mine will probably be one of my Black Mirror videos. Which is just, like I say, it picks apart all of the best parts of it, but because of the, shall we say, recent decline in that particular show's quality, I've been kind of navigating around Doctor Who and other kind of projects that I found interesting. So, for example, The Mandalorian was something that I was really excited about, and I thought, oh yeah, that is definitely got to be something that I'm going to cover in the present and obviously in the near future, because I know they've got another series of that coming out in October. But it's been pretty much on the up of if you're interested in predominantly Doctor Who or Black Mirror, they're my bread and butter shows really that I've covered. I've done a couple of other bits and bobs, but I've been making videos for a good nearly 6 years now of the main kind of review things, and that's pretty much as summarizable I could possibly get for you.
No, that's brilliant, mate. And actually, I watched the. I was curious when I was like just preparing everything for this recording. I was curious as like what was the first Did It Suck for Doctor Who you did in particular? Because I said I jumped on it about series 11 when Jodie took over, and I think unless I missaw it, it was the start of the Capaldi era. Was the first
That's
one?
right. Yeah.
Deep breath.
There was a point where I was kind of like I did feel a little bit kind of bored of the show by the time Matt Smith came along, and it's probably just a bit of teenage angst mixed in with a bit of I don't know, I'm too old for this shit kind of thing. But simultaneously, I thought it'd be a fresh start. Maybe there might be something new to it all. But unfortunately, the first episode did kind of I felt was a bit of a letdown, and I'd been kind of quiet on the subject for a long time, and I felt that would be a good jumping on point to start making videos on that. But the thing is, that was what it wasn't really what took the channel off. I think it was more the Black Mirror stuff, or even Harry Potter was another thing that I did for a while that kind of elevated the channel a bit further. But you're right, Deep Breath was my very first one, and I've not looked back at those videos since. I have I'm imagining horrific audio quality, awful editing, nonsensical arguments galore in those videos. I have not the foggiest, but that was literally because at that time I'd just gone to I just moved to Cambridge to do my degree, and I wanted a kind of side hobby to occupy the time with, because I just had so much flipping free time at that point that I just thought, okay, might as well give it a go, and that's where it kind of started.
No, of course, man. I think it was interesting to rewatch that first one, because there is a difference, but again, I wouldn't say it wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. But I feel you about looking back at old videos. I recently did on my channel a special for 10,000 subscribers, which was I do a series on my channel where it's called A Brief History, just where I talk about a history of something I'm interested in. It could be anything, and I thought it'd be novel to do one just about myself, not necessarily about all my life, but like how I evolved on YouTube, if you like. But that meant going back and watching like my first videos, and that was a slog. Like filmed on like a Samsung Galaxy S2 with the flashlight on, and horrific, or like the whole thing was just abysmal. But I think part of me was like, I won't delete them, because they were the first, and even though as cringy as they are, for me at least, I think it's a nice reminder to see how far I've come as a content creator. I don't know if you feel the same way. Like,
for sure.
You'll keep those up, yeah?
If you're on 10k already, kudos to you, man, because like the amount of time it takes to even get to 100, I mean, maybe you could agree with me or not here, but I'd swear that like that first like jump is the hardest bit to get to, and then when you get to like those higher, seriously, congratulations on getting 10k.
Thanks, man.
That's like, if you've got the ability to look back on that at 10k, like I remember because I did attempt like a kind of live stream thing when I realized, it's been 5 years since like I started doing reviews in a more kind of serious capacity, because everything I'd done before that was just like Dark Souls games. I was just playing video games with my mate and just uploading that, but up until then I hadn't really kind of done anything like that. But on that fateful day, shall we say, it was last year, I tried doing a live stream, and it just all went it just went kaput. I've been very unlucky with live streams. And,
really?
The only time I ever had a real kind of success with that was when I did Simpsons Hit and Run, but that was mate, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Quality game, one of the best games of like that like unironically as well, like one of the best games of that generation, I think. Like I love Simpsons Hit and Run. Yeah. And what was the other one I loved? There's another one was it a kids game? I don't know, but Simpsons, that needs a remaster or a remake or a sequel. if we can get Battle for Bikini Bottom remastered, then we need to do Simpsons Hit and Run.
It's waves of nostalgia right now, man.
Oh, please, honestly, like PlayStation 2 stuff. Like, I don't know what you think about this, like, but you know that there seems to be like a window, you know, when like consoles or games enter that realm of being like retro or nostalgic, and I feel the PS2, Xbox, GameCube has started. They had been for a while, but I think they're now like fully into that zone. In my opinion, people seem to be looking back on them with those glasses, whereas like say the Wii, Xbox 360, they haven't quite reached that, whatever that imaginary threshold is. I mean, do you think that's the case? Or
I think in a lot of ways it's probably down to the fact that if you're talking about consoles that require, so if you look at the Wii U, the original Nintendo Wii, which had a lot of kind of motion sensory stuff, you can't really replicate that in a modern kind of console era. You wouldn't be able to. I know that there are Wii like emulators, for example, but things like the original PlayStation, GameCube, and Xbox, I'm sure you could probably on a low-end machine like a computer would be able to replicate all of that, and so you can go back and revisit all of these quote-unquote dead consoles. But at the same time, you're right. I think that when people suddenly turn around and realize, oh my God, the year is 2020, and I had a console 20 years ago that was brand new, and I thought it was all the rage. There's definitely got to be a nostalgia value to that for sure.
No, absolutely. My very first console was a PlayStation 1. And because that came out, was it like 95, 96 originally?
Oh, God, I don't know, man. So, I've never actually owned a Sony console myself.
Oh, man.
I'm ashamed to say I had the Xbox, but my first console, well, you know, I was quite fond of, well, I don't say fond of, I think my family were only able to afford handheld consoles back then.
That's fair.
So, you know, Game Boy Advance, I was all about Pokemon, man.
Yeah. See, I was a Yu-Gi-Oh kid. It's got to be said. I know. We could get it. No, I don't know what it was like. Pokemon. I mean, because the show was on, of course. You know, in the early 2000s, it was like everywhere. You couldn't escape it. And I caught the show, and the show was fine. But I don't know if you had this, like with Pokemon, like the card game specifically. It seemed like anyone who brought it into school didn't actually know how to play it. It was just, oh, look at the shiny card I have. And I was always like, well, how do we play? How do we play? And everyone was like, oh, well. I don't know. You just look at the card. Whereas with Yu-Gi-Oh, like, as complex as it was when you think of it as, like, you know, mainly a children's game, it was quite complex. But once I figured out how to play it, I was like, cool. I know actually how to engage in this more than just being like, look at this shiny piece of cardboard I have. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what turned me off Pokemon. And with the games, I just never had the games. I don't know why. I had a Game Boy Advance, but I was more into the... Well, not into. I think, like you said, by what we could afford, cheap movie tie-ins on Game Boy Advance. So, like, Chicken Little, what a banger on Game Boy Advance that was.
Oh my God, yeah! I've just remembered as well. There was a Jimmy Neutron game I had on Game Boy.
Yes, wasn't it like he was fighting like an evil version of himself or something like that?
I can't remember, but I just remember the first level you were running around like his hometown, and then whenever you entered the levels, they would become like a 2D jump and collect coins kind of Mario thing.
I feel that was like every Game Boy Advance game ever. It'd be like, look, we can do 3D, we promise. Look, here's some 3D, but then it was like, yeah, but we can't do it for the whole thing. So now it's 2D side scroller. Oh man, I love. It's nice to talk about games and stuff actually, because it's not really something I do on my channel. Like, I mentioned it here and there, but. Yeah, I just feel I've been. I don't know if you've been tempted. I've been tempted to do like, I'll do like a game live stream, or I might talk about games and stuff. But I look at what's out there, and it's almost like every single possible thing you could say about video games has been done. And I know it's like you can do your own spin, you can do your own take on it, etc. But for me, at least, there just seems to be so much. I'm kind of like, what am I going to bring? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if
the
you
market
find that,
is definitely saturated with gaming content at the moment, because it's so much easier to just throw gaming content onto a platform like YouTube. Aside, compared to talking about a TV show where you run the risk of getting like a copyright claim or whatever, and like it's just two different mediums, I think, because you've got. The thing with video games in a lot of ways is the experience, although everybody may or may not be playing the same game, everyone has their own unique experience of how they beat it, how long it took them, what parts they discovered, what they don't. It's like whereas with a TV show or a movie, everyone is getting exactly the same package. Obviously, everyone's getting different reactions and responses to it, which is exactly why YouTube is a perfect platform for opinions based on those particular things. But because the content itself is so much more easily produced and less risky with video games, I think that's probably why that saturation has occurred.
Yeah, and I think especially when the bigger people on the top subscribed creators focus on gaming, like I think it's that classic thing in it. People look at what bigger people are doing and think, how can I do that? Or in some cases they just blatantly copy them, which I don't condone whatsoever, but it happens. But talking about different reactions, I think if anyone who saw on Twitter, one of them, I wanted to chat with you for several reasons, but one of the main reasons I wanted to chat with you was because from watching you Did It Suck series on series 12, I think we've got wildly different opinions, and I'm all for, trust me, I'm all for like hearing different opinions. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh no, you're wrong, you can't say, do you know what I mean? I'm not about that. So yeah, for everyone out there, what were your thoughts on series 12?
That's it. I can't even put it into a word.
That's the best summary ever. Just no, that's fair. That's fair. As I was saying, like anyone who's listening who is curious to, if you want more than a sound effect, Harry has done a whole Did It Suck series on series 12. I want to bring it mainly to obviously the big one, the Timeless Children, everyone's favorite. So obviously there were several big twists in that, and I'll just say now, spoilers, if you haven't seen it, please go and watch it, because the next few minutes is probably going to be talking all about it. So obviously the big reveal that, the Doctor's the Timeless Child, and there's these pre-Hartnell incarnations and stuff. What was it in your view that you took like issue with that as a fan or a viewer?
Well, I think the main thing is that so let me start from the point of that. I know a lot of people were very unhappy because of the, shall we say, lack of due respect towards Hartnell. And the thing is, I honestly know absolutely bugger all about the classic era of Who, like at all. Like I've only watched like about maybe should we say 5 or 6 stories. Like I'm not somebody who's gone back and watched all of that, like the history of it, because I think that is something that obviously is definitely to be taken into consideration. But because I've been shall we say closely examining the show more than perhaps your average viewer might, for every single review, for full disclosure, I will watch the episode twice to get the full gist of it, and then I will be able to make a full kind of opinion on it. And the main thing for me is less so the shall we say proclaimed insult, but more the general quality of the show in comparison to what I would deem the kind of golden era of the show between about 2005 and 2010.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, there is an expectation to be met, but simultaneously, it has to still surprise us enough to make it watchable, because you can't just rehash everything as it was, because then that would be a worse decision to make. And I think I probably might have mentioned the fact that I was happy that they took a risk at the very least to give it its due credit where it is due, because obviously it's not like if they'd taken the scenario that I had described previously, where it was just a rehash of everything that had come before, then I probably wouldn't even be watching it. But it still continues to evolve. It tries to kind of manipulate itself into something consumable and shall we say I think accessible is definitely the word I'm looking for here, because it's now it's a show that's not just exclusively something that's aired in the UK anymore. It is global, and it's got a different approach to what it once had, but I definitely think it's more a myriad of different quality drops that are consistent within each episode, as opposed to something that genuinely upset me specifically in that episode, which I think a lot of people have got the opinion of, that, you know, the Timeless Children is the worst episode ever, can't believe it, you know, and you know, I've definitely seen worse episodes than the Timeless Children, even though I still think it is a bad episode.
Sure, yeah.
So that's the kind of the full swing of where I'm coming from looking at this. And I will add as well that, you know, it has been about 5 months since I last had a proper talk about it. So if you did have any particular moments or any comments that I made, you know, about it that you may perhaps take issue with, or if you think that I'm wrong about, I'm more than happy to you know, respond to if you've got anything like that, perhaps.
Sure. No, yeah, I did rewatch your review, and I mean, like I said at the start, like your whole style of reviewing and how you go about it and how you use all the factors, you know, like the editing and the clips you use, like I've always appreciated that style, because, well, there's clearly a lot of time and effort into it. Like you say, you watch the stories twice, and I'll be honest, there was nothing in it inherently that sort of, you know, made me sit up and go, whoa, like that's either that, you know, I think that's out of order, or like, I think, you think it's a bad episode, but the way you constructed it was completely fair. What I personally don't like is when people, again, not saying I don't want to hear their opinions, but it's when you read their opinions and it seems more, obviously I don't want to, like, you know, label, because obviously the only people who know what's going on in their head is themselves, but when you read an opinion where it seems like that same thought and effort hasn't gone into it, and it just seems more like a personal attack at the people involved, so say attacking like Jodie or Chris Chibnall, and at the end of the day, they're people employed by the BBC to make a show. I don't think there's this opinion, I don't know if you've seen it, that, oh, Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall are out to destroy Doctor Who. Like, that is their that is their intention. And I'm like, well, they're being hired and paid to make this show, so why would they want to try and get it cancelled? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly. That's the opinions that annoy me more. Not that I don't want to hear them, but it's just like, it doesn't seem constructive to me. It's like, well, you're just rambling now. It's like there's no. Whereas with yours, like, you're providing points, you're giving evidence, you're backing it up. That's what I appreciate. But I mean, in my view, I'll talk about what I enjoyed in a moment.
Yeah,
but
please do, because that's just the thing. Like, you know, with and I think this is just a general problem with social media and YouTube in general. This is why I really love that we're, you know, having this conversation. Is because when you make these kind of reviews and things, the temptation is to just scan through all of your comments, who are all like, yes, absolutely, I totally agree. No, I really want to hear, like, you know, what exactly it is that, you know, you enjoyed about it, what others have enjoyed about it, because you don't really get it really when you've got like your own opinion about something, and you're just, you know, looking at the next project that you're going to make after that. From my point of view, anyway. No,
exactly. And I think with social media, like, when it's just text, it's so easy to misinterpret the tone of thing. Doesn't matter how many emojis or whatever you use. I think it can be so easily misconstrued. So, like you say, I'm glad we're doing this, because at least we can hear each other's voices. You get more of a clearer picture. But the one main thing I would have changed, I'll say that first, was I would have loved it if the Timeless Child was the Master instead of the Doctor. I know a lot of people have said that, because that just would have provided so much more. Not that he didn't have it before, but it would have given the Master so much more, like, motivation as a character. It would have given him something unique. It would have given it something like almost a one over the Doctor, which would probably make the Doctor more afraid of the Master. Because I love those moments in the show where, because obviously they're both Time Lords or whatever, but I love the moments throughout Who history where you can see the Doctor is in fear of the Master, you know, what they might do, of their power, whatever. And if the Master had been revealed to be the Timeless Child, I thought that would have been like the perfect moment of that scenario, if that makes sense. But alas, that didn't happen. I mean, part of me in my head's like, I'm hoping the Master was just lying this whole time, and he actually is, and he's just waiting for another grand reveal. But sadly, I don't know it's going to happen. But
I will just add as well, though, as a caveat to that, I think because if that was the case, because I think one of the things that I kind of thought about when I was reviewing Spyfall is that like there had to be some kind of reason for why he was the way he was, and it just seemed very kind of arbitrary and spontaneous. But had that been the case, I think that would have tied into it quite nicely.
Yeah, well, Series 13, you never know. Might be an absolute surprise. If
it isn't completely cancelled by COVID, but
Oh, well, that's another story, isn't it? But
cancelled by COVID. The story of 2020.
No, exactly. Like you said, the bit I agree with you on is that they took a risk. I'm really glad they did, because I think Doctor Who, whether it works or not, as you sort of mentioned, like it thrives on evolving and taking risks and doing something different. Like, of course, I think sometimes people forget in the 60s when the Doctor first changed, that would have been seen back then as a big risk because it had never been done before. And all those moments, like revealing the Doctor was a Time Lord in the end of the 60s and that the Time Lords after, all those sort of big moments, it's like, we've got to remember at some point they were seen as risks as well. So yes, I'm glad they took one. Yeah. When I was watching it, I didn't inherently like react with, oh my God, they're destroying everything. I was like, okay, I was just sort of rolling with it as it was unfolding. I was like, okay, like tell me more, tell me what's going on. Did the Time Lords like need a backstory as to like why they have regenerative powers? Not really, but I mean, it was what it was, and I think the big thing I enjoyed was that I know it might sound a bit odd, but you know how it changes a lot of things, but also doesn't change that much at all.
Yeah,
and I think it opens up this whole thing with pre-Hartnell Doctors, is it opens up this whole history that now either we as fans or the people who run the show or the spin-offs like Big Finish, it's like it's now up to them whether they want to tap into that or not. And I think if they did tap into it, that's fine, because those incarnations, I would argue, aren't labelled as the Doctor. I mean, my thing with it is, I don't know if you saw, a lot of people were saying, oh, like, they've destroyed William Hartnell's legacy then. He's not the first Doctor anymore, etc., etc.
Yeah.
My view was, what I took from it was, yes, you have these pre-incarnations, but to the best of our knowledge, the William Hartnell one, when it was all reset, was the first incarnation to label or title himself as the Doctor. And so in my view, and I felt this while watching it, it didn't sort of take time, I just thought it as it was going along, William Hartnell is still the first Doctor by title. He's not the first incarnation necessarily, but still the first incarnation to take that title, if that makes sense. So that's how I oversaw that in my head, but the only thing that sort of stands in that way is the Jo Martin Doctor.
Yeah, because I was just going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing that sort of blocks in my head, only because she has a police box TARDIS, and she calls herself the Doctor. So where does that, and I know people say it's have you heard of like the whole 6B theory between Doctors 2 and 3?
Oh, I wish I had time to look up theories, man. No, unfortunately,
fair.
I don't.
That's fair. To like really briefly summarize it, so at the end of the second Doctor's time, the Time Lord sent him into exile, but then there's this whole subplot where there's a theory that before they changed his appearance, they sent him on a bunch of missions. Right. And obviously, with any gap in Doctor Who history, that could be expanded to infinity. Yeah. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, they changed his appearance several times in this gap, and one of them was the Jo Martin Doctor, because she has like a 60s-looking TARDIS, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think with any theory, and I don't know if you agree, like I think the connections are always going to be there if you really want them to be.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's
sure.
just, yeah, but no, I mean, I've enjoyed this series as a whole, to be honest. I've enjoyed the sense of fun I've had with it, because, I mean, Doctor Who, for me, when Jodie started, I mean, you had all these expectations in the press and the media about, oh, it's a woman Doctor, is it going to be any good, blah, 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 but I just sort of said to myself, just watch it as best you can and just see if you're just enjoying it, are you having fun with it? And I am having fun with it. I'm really enjoying what she's doing with the character. I'm really enjoying the dynamic she has with certain characters. Not all of them, granted, and I think some of the companions are horribly underwritten. But that's a given. But no, on the whole, I like how it's been progressing. I mean, I know a lot of people say, oh, there's not enough moments where the Doctor's, if you like, embracing the darker side of her nature, that more old, wise side where things can get a bit down and a bit bleak. Like Series 11, it was like positivity train all the way through, if you like. And And I don't know, I kind of like that sort of slow mellowness, how the darker moments have come in Series 12, like, when she sees the Master's recording, or when she confronts her companions in Villa Diodati, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm liking the sort of slow burn with it myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is there any particular point you want to, like, sort of challenge me on or debate me on?
No,
I'm open to
honestly,
it all. Like...
it's like the thing is, at the end of the day, if you're enjoying it, that is great to hear, because, at least it's not like... At least not everybody is railing against it. There's clearly an audience there for it, which is something that I have been kind of pondering, whether that is a truism or not, because it's all about that kind of echo chamber bubble theory of social media, that the people that you're going to talk to about Doctor Who are going to be the people who agree with you about it. And
sure.
But for good or for bad, the last thing I want is people clashing on the internet about stuff. But this is why I like having the ability to just make a full-fledged 24-minute review about what I thought about it. Because the thing is like, there are so many aspects of any kind of TV show, regardless of whether we're talking about Doctor Who or Black Mirror, but because there's obviously technical side and there's story side, and for me the main thing that whilst you were talking I was thinking about was that particular episode, The Fugitive of the Jadoon, because that really did blow my mind. Honestly was my favourite episode of Jodie's era so far, and albeit Jack's flipping cameo, shall we say, was so ridiculously pointless, and I was begging for him to come back, and I think that was that also does play into the later events, because the thing is, when you think about, and I've mentioned the idea of the golden era of Who, each series had this kind of continuing arc, or some kind of teasing, shall we say, of a great thing to come, and it always had such a great payoff by the end of the series. And then when you throw something like there were regenerations before Hartnell, potentially, that doesn't seem to be too bad in my mind, because we are talking about an individual who is quote unquote invincible and can change their face when they're dying. And it wasn't Chibnall who decided that the 13 regenerations thing was a bad idea because it would limit the amount of series they would be able to create. That was Moffat who undid that and said, yeah, we're going to make this forever and ever and ever, which is something that I don't think I really picked up on until I had a look back at the show from 2005 until as it stands now. And the thing is obviously whoever's going to take charge of it is going to have to make it surprising enough, and that's why I was so pleased with Fugitive, because it really did please me in the sense that when I watched The Woman Who Fell to Earth, I was so hooked on the idea of the show being more centralized on Earth, being a far more character-driven and maybe even a story-driven show, instead of having all of the spectacle that they try and throw in the finales that we're just so kind of accustomed to, or became accustomed to, with both the Davies and the Moffat eras. That they might be stripping it back a bit, but the thing is that by the time that everything started to unfold and we just kind of got more of the same in Series 11, by the time that the whole thing had finished, that I was expecting exactly the same thing again. And it, like I said, it has its ups and downs, as every series does, but unfortunately I find that in a general sense, and especially on a technical sense, the show really does let down. Especially because a lot of other modern shows are truly outcompeting it, and I feel sorry for the BBC, who don't really have a lot of other fantasy science fiction properties that they can throw money at. At the same time, they're not really known for that either. And
No.
Again, so many factors at play here, but I still feel that, when I talk about the show as it is, I really do have to kind of conceptualize how it has been since 2005. And of course, this doesn't take into account all of the classic era, and I know that there will be a whole bunch of people who are really unhappy with me because I don't know the full story, but that's just me, I'm not like some 50-year-old guy who is just, had to sit through however many years of no Doctor Who being on TV. I've literally known for over half of my life the show being on nearly every year. And that is just my impression of it. I don't know anybody that's got like the knowledge that I might perhaps desire, but at the same time, I don't even desire going back and watching them all of the flipping however many years it was, 26 years
of
the show.
No, absolutely. And I've always been of the opinion, if, like you say, you've watched some classic Who, you've seen some stories, but I feel if you don't decide to delve into the whole shebang, then that's absolutely fine. I think, it's there to be consumed if fans want to, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Yeah. I think, you're just as much as a fan if you've only seen the new series. There's many points of fandom I could talk about that I don't like, but one of them is this whole thing of, if you haven't seen the classic era, then you're not call it like a true fan, a pure, whatever you call it, and these people who go, I've been watching Doctor Who since the very first episode when I was like 6 or so, and I'm like, great, good for you. Like that doesn't put you above me or below. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's the sort of thing I don't like, but it's funny you mentioned about the technical aspect, and I absolutely agree. And I was chatting with are you familiar with Josh Snares on YouTube?
That rings a bell. I'm going to do a quick search on there. Is that SNARES? Yes,
yeah. He primarily makes like documentaries on some era of the classic show, mainly the 60s, and like all the missing episodes and stuff. It's really cool, really, and he does it in a very accessible way for those who maybe aren't as clued up. But I was having a chat with him about and he brought up the same thing as you, like, this whole technical aspect, like compared to other shows that are just out there in general on a technical level, Doctor Who can't really compete. And I thought, and I wonder what you think about this, in Jodie's era they swapped, I don't know the exact specs, but they swapped like camera lenses to like more cinema like filmography almost. I can't remember the actual term, but I remember it being a thing in like Doctor Who magazine and stuff. They said, they're swapping lenses and it's going to be more like the cinema. And I think that, whilst you can get some really nice shots for like, backgrounds or landscapes or whatever, I just think in the technical department, it doesn't actually help it. I think it hinders it more because it shows up how, I guess, basic, if you like, compared to Game of Thrones, Westworld, all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you agree. It just
I think the main I know absolutely nothing about cameras, man. I really wish I could go out and I can tell you about this lens, I can tell you about this Nikon thing, but I know nothing about that. Fair. But all I can say is that there's a like a change in the aspect ratio because the whole time it's been revived, it has been in 16:9, which majority of TVs, monitors, phones are set by. It's the widescreen that has kind of come in probably at the turn of the millennium, because it used to be it used to be letterbox 4:3.
Yeah.
And then they kind of crunched it down a bit, and I'm not sure what the reasoning behind it is, because if we're talking about like a cinema width, it would be wider than what we've been presented with in series 11 and 12. I'm not too sure on the exact details, but I do know that they have done a lot of screenings of, say, the pilot episode, or even like the 50th anniversary. They had that on at the cinemas when it first came out, and I don't know if that was kind of in some kind of assistance to that. But again, the cinema widescreen, if we were looking at it like, I don't know, compare it to a film by Quentin Tarantino, for example, who always has the same aspect ratio, we would see far bigger black bars
of course,
than we would in the series 11 and 12, because like the line goes right through the BBC icon, the little logo in the corner, and for some reason that just drives me mad. I don't know why, but maybe I've got some kind of OCD or something, I don't know.
No, that's fair, man. It was just that whole thing of like noticing the shift and where it works, but where it also hinders the show. Because I mean, I've been rewatching some of the like series 1 and 2, Eccleston and Tennant, and yeah, you know, some of the effects these days, maybe arguably even back then, weren't necessarily like, you know, fantastic.
Oh god,
but
yeah.
I mean, the Krillitanes in School Reunion for one. I mean, the less lest we forget. But I don't know. There's just something. Even though you, as you said, you know they're like not as good as what else was available, but I don't know. It might just be me. It's just this whole aspect change or whatever to me just makes some of the effects look worse than they did in like those early seasons of the revival, and I'm not quite sure what it is. But I will tell you what, though, even though I do enjoy the Jodie era a lot, the writing in series 1 in particular. Like, because I was with my girlfriend the other day and we were just browsing. I said, let's watch some Doctor Who, and we put on Dalek. And still, I think, 15 years on, my God, like the writing in that story, like the pacing of it, like one of my favourite scenes in all Doctor Who is literally the scene when he first goes in the cage and has, you know, that chat with the Dalek.
Oh God,
like, it's just so, like his rage, his power, like the emotion, and somehow the Dalek conveying like a whole range of emotions, even though it's meant to be this emotionless being.
I know.
Like it portrays like sass and like clapbacks, and especially with, oddly enough, when when Rose first sees it and it's acting all like sad and stuff. Like I find that strangely powerful, and I'm like, I know what happens. Like I know it's doing this on purpose, but I just don't know how they managed to cram all of that into one 45-minute story, and yet now you've got stories that are 50 minutes or even some of the hour-long ones that, in my opinion, they just don't compete. And
you're right.
And yeah, just series 1 on the whole, actually, I really do enjoy. Like Eccleston's one of my favourite Doctors personally, and I'm really glad he's coming back. Are you going to get the Big Finish audios, or is that not something you delve into?
Well, the thing is, I've not really I've definitely not delved into Big Finish, but I've been recommended persistently by my fans to give them a go, and I know that they're kind of coming from the angle of, this was what they had before Eccleston was about, because I correct me if I'm wrong, I think that they were kind of going on in the sort of intermediary years between 1989 and 2005.
Yeah, I think it started in 97 or 8. So okay. Like after the McGann movie, but yeah.
Sure, yeah, but the thing is, like I'm happy that he is coming back, because I know that he has sort of been very distant from the show. Well, partly understandably, but at the same time, it's like. I've not really. I think the main thing is I spend enough time watching these old episodes back or watching the new series and covering them on the channel that, like, all this extra content, it's the same as the classic. I just don't really have time for it. Firstly, but
no, sure.
When I've finished all of the Moffat stuff, I might return to it. I might have a look at it, but simultaneously, I have been one of my patrons who just to shamelessly plug myself on Patreon here, but I've set it up so that there's a certain category where if you donate a certain amount a month, you get a request video, and somebody has requested the Spare Parts Big Finish story. So that will be my first not my first Spare Parts adventure, my first Big Finish adventure. So it will be very interesting to give that a go. But as far as if I enjoy that, then I probably will give Eccleston a try. Again, it's all going to be down to that, really.
No, absolutely. I mean, Spare Parts, it's one of those ones I've wanted to, because again, like you say, it's one I think a lot of fans who adore Big Finish, like that's one of like the top 10. Everyone talks about it. And last year they released it on like a lovely, like a vinyl edition, and I love vinyl, so I was like, I was so torn because it was a bit pricey, but I was like, yeah, but look at it. I mean, they also did one of the Daleks Master Plan like the whole 12-part soundtrack, and I was like, oh, don't do this, because it was like £90, and I was like, no, and I didn't in the end. Yeah, they ramped those things up, but my God, I was tempted. I was very tempted. But no, I mean, some Big Finish. I mean, I've only delved into some myself. Like I've listened to the very first one they did, because that was like on sale. I think it was like £5, but which oddly enough is a multi-Doctor story. It's Doctors 5, 6, and 7. And even then, like, you know, for 97, 98, whatever, like, you know, in some aspects of the audio realm, it's a bit primitive, but it's still it's fun, you know. And I've listened to Jubilee, which is written by Rob Sherman. I don't know if you heard of that one.
The Dalek writer, right?
Yeah, and I think, well, having listened to it, there are elements of Jubilee that definitely inspired Dalek, absolutely. I mean, as I say, I've listened to them. I've not listened to them since. I mean, if you want, I'm happy to send them to you if you want. I've got them on CD. It's not like I'm going to listen to them again.
So, all right, yeah. Well, I'll take you up on that, man. If I enjoy this spare parts one,
let me know.
I believe that was actually one of the spare parts one was an inspiration for the Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel episodes. I've heard.
Yeah, I think it is, and I've got to say those two episodes I think probably my favourite of Series 2. I think even more than... I mean, when I was a kid, it was Army and Ghost Doomsday, because let's face it, when you're 10 years old, there's Daleks and Cybermen fighting at the same time and saying really, like, sly insults at each other, like, this is hilarious. But yeah, in hindsight, I don't know, again, it's like that thing about I was talking with Dalek, like, you know, just sort of how powerful the writing is in a way.
Yeah.
There's so many moments for me in Rise and Age of Steel where it just hits, like, even now 14 years on, like for example the when the Doctor and Mrs. Moore down a Cyberman, but then it remembers who it is and it's the woman who was going to get married. There's that, for example. Don't know why, but that hits every time. And the bit for me, and no, I've never seen anyone talk about this, and you'll probably think like, what the hell is he talking about? But it's a very specific shot which lasts for about 4 seconds. So I'll try and set it up best I can.
Sure.
So the Doctor, in Age of Steel, the Doctor's just put, you know, the code in the mobile phone. They've all started going insane.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the shot where the Cyberman sees its reflection, and David Tennant's, like, behind it in the reflection, and he just does his, you know, his classic, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. I know exactly the shot you're talking about.
But you know what? I don't know what it is. Just the way it's done, and, like, how... Even though it's just like making a bunch of moaning sounds, if you like, you can tell like the shock, the fear, the terror that this person inside this suit is now, you know, experiencing all at once. I don't know what it is, but those like 4 seconds just hit me every single time. And I just, it's a brilliant two-parter. If you want to talk about bad CGI, when the cyber controller falls into the exploding factory.
Yeah.
Oh dear. That's but we don't need to talk about that. That's fine. We'll discount that. But what's so out of like the revived series then, if we're talking like from 2005 onwards, I'll say, what is your favourite series as a whole, and then do you have a favourite story out of any of those seasons?
Oh, well,
I know,
Chris
question.
Eccleston has got to be my like guilty pleasure one, just because it's like that was the first one that I ever saw.
Yeah.
You know, at one time in my life, that was all there was for Doctor Who, and you know, I definitely do have a soft spot for that early cheesy Welsh era. But at the same time, by the time Series 4 comes along, it just blows, like this, especially the second half. It blows so much of the water, and I really, really appreciate how everything from the very first episode of Eccleston's era Rose right up until Journey's End, all of that ties itself up in such a lovely little bow tie, shall we say.
Yeah.
But I think I couldn't pick between Series 4 and 1 just because I really like the both of them. I think my favourite like story has got to be the Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead ones.
Beautiful story. No, that's cool, man. Like Series 4 is high up there for me. Again, I rewatched Turn Left, Stolen Earth, Journey's End recently, and just that whole you know how it just all unfolds is brilliant, really brilliant.
Yeah.
My favourite series, and a lot of people hate on me for this, it's Series 8.
Oh, that's the one. That's Capaldi's first one, right?
It is. Capaldi, in my opinion, is the best actor to take on the role of the Doctor, in my humble opinion. And like you were saying towards, the end of Matt Smith's time when we first watch it, we were, I think, getting a bit, we're not, this isn't for us anymore. Like, I personally felt, I love Matt Smith, don't get me wrong, but towards the end it was getting a bit too fairy tale for me, like a bit too whimsy. And because I get what you mean about, in some sense, the shift to Capaldi in one hand was more of the same, maybe in terms of like, story structures or whatever. But for me, like the change in character, like to that more like aggressive, hard edge, short tempered. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like you said, like the right time in my life or whatever. But that clicked with me instantly. So like by the end of Deep Breath, I'm like, yeah, I'm with you. Like, I'm here. I'm down. And that whole series, I know a lot of people hate it because, yeah, he's short-tempered and he's short with people and all that sort of stuff. I think that's partly what makes his character brilliant. I do agree with mellowing him through his tenure. I think it could have been done slower than what it was, because let's face it, when Series 9 started, they were like, let's basically write him like Matt Smith. Yeah. And then that's, and he still killed it, don't get me wrong, but I just thought the mellowing could have taken a lot longer. But yeah, I don't know, just that big shift. And I still watch it now, and I still love it. I still love every single story in it, regardless. And yeah, it's my favourite series. So to everyone out there listening, if you don't like Series 8 and say you shouldn't like Series 8, tough.
Well, hang on. Let me pick your brain then. What?
No, sure.
What? Because I'm just looking at the episodes of that series, and
yeah.
in fairness, there are a couple of not a couple. There's plenty of good episodes in that series. So like the second one, Into the Dalek, is great. Listen is an awesome episode.
Yep.
Mummy on the try that one again. Mummy on the Orient Express was good. Yeah. Flatline is so creative, and I even think the first part of the finale is really good as
Dark
well.
Water,
Dark Water,
absolutely,
really good.
yeah.
But then I look at the one, you're probably going to know exactly which one I'm going to ask about.
Go on.
In the Forest of the Night.
Yeah.
That's the one that I always end up thinking about.
Yeah, I will say it is my least favourite of the season. I'll give you that 100%. Reasons why I like In the Forest of the Night. Are some of the elements of the story like a little bit cringe? Yes, absolutely. Like, the whole thing at the very end where the bush disappears and the missing girl. I mean, one, why is she in a bush? Two, why? just why in general. Yeah. That's cringe, and some of the stuff is cringe with the kids, but then I'm like, but they're children actors. Like, I've got to cut them some degree of slack, I suppose. But I don't know. I just think, again, how Capaldi interacts with those like child characters, because of course in this season he's still very much a bit more, hard-edged and short-tempered, and I just think that clash with like some of the kids is just really funny. Like, I love how like after a few seconds of them being in the TARDIS, you can, without him even saying it, you can see how like pissed he is. He's like, why have you done this? Why have you brought these children? And the whole bit like towards the end when they basically think the world is gonna like, burn up or whatever. That whole thing of, him saying, Clara saying that she'll stay or whatever, and he's just really wants her to come with him, because I think it's those little moments where you can tell he needs Clara, even though in that season he doesn't, outwardly say it, like rarely ever. There's just, I think In the Forest is more about little moments, if you get what I mean. It's not about like the grand spectacle of the episode. There's many for me like small moments that I'm like, yes, like this is why I love Doctor Who. Like, and there's that line at the end, I'm trying to remember it now, like after the danger's passed, it's like, why, all I remember is Capaldi saying, if you felt the true pain or something, you'd stop having wars and stop having babies. It's something about feeling pain, basically. And he delivers it so beautifully. Again, like, that's why, in terms of like the speechy stuff, I know a lot of people don't like it when the doctors do like big speeches, like, the war speech in the Zygon inversion, or the just be kind speech in the Doctor Falls, whatever. I don't mind them. I kind of love a speech. I mean, I'm an actor. I'm always looking for monologues, man. I need new monologues. But I just think how he handles them compared to some of the other doctors is just so. There's always like an air of sort of grandiose about it, in my opinion. He just feel like I think with some speeches that Matt Smith did. So the Rings of Akaten. again, another favourite. Yeah, another favourite, loved by everyone. That whole speech, with the sun thing, and everyone quotes it, how he's like, I can't remember what he says, but it's a grand speech. All I remember is "take it all, baby, have it," which is like, okay. Yeah. But that whole speech, like the speech, I thought was well written. Like if you just read it, like out of a script or a book, but the way Matt Smith did it wasn't bad. But I didn't believe him, if that makes sense. I didn't believe this guy had done all this stuff, had lived all this stuff. Yeah. Whereas, sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, without a doubt, we are dealing with a far more experienced actor
for sure,
compared to Matt Smith.
And I think that helps. Again, not saying the Doctor shouldn't be a young actor. I'm all for it. But
he's got a great speech in the Zygon Inversion, if I remember correctly.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, that speech, again, there's one bit where he's saying, I fought in worse wars than you'll ever imagine. And when I close my eyes, and then he stops. Yeah. And it's like, just the way he goes about it, you believe this guy's been through all that, even though he's a time-traveling alien with two hearts who's lived for like 1,200 years or whatever. Like, you believe it, or I believe it anyway. So, yeah, no, Capaldi's my favourite Doctor, and Series 8's my favourite season. So, yeah, anyone listening, don't at me on Twitter. Please don't come after me saying, you're wrong, you haven't been a fan of the show since 1963, blah, 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 blah. There'll be, I bet you, there will be someone. There will be someone.
There's always one.
There's always one. I am aware we're coming up to an hour, so sure. I will wrap things up. But one thing I will ask you is, what is your favorite, and this can be anything, doesn't have to be like the program itself, but what is your favorite Doctor Who related memory, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, it's you asked me the really jammy question there. So
it can be the TV show if you want. I just think if there was anything like outside of just watching it, like any experience or thing like that.
Well, when I was a wee lad, when I was when I was 9 years old, and 2005 was rocking in, and I didn't actually watch Eccleston's shall we say, the comeback of the show from the very start. My very first episode of Doctor Who was Aliens of London, the one with the Slitheen.
Yes,
and I was absolutely terrified of it. I am not kidding. This was like such a strange idea to me that like human beings would unzip themselves and then there's a great big green thing inside. So that was obviously a memory to I think my mum softened the blow for the second part of that, because I remember we had McDonald's that night, and at the time, 9 years old, that was just the best thing ever. But
that was
for the birthday I had after the series had finished, I got like, because they didn't come out in DVDs of like the whole series like at the time.
No, it was like volumes, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, they had like 3 episodes at a time, or maybe even 4 on some of them. If
bloody
you were
hell,
lucky.
what a dark age!
I know. It's so weird to like get nostalgic about that, but like it was so weird to me that like there were 3 episodes before Aliens of London, and I watched those first 3 over and over and over again, because I had them on that red cover. I remember with Auton, Doctor and Rose and TARDIS, and I just watched those 3 over and over because I'd just never seen them before.
No, of course.
And it obviously makes a lot more sense now. But that, having those DVDs, and then I think because I got that one red DVD on the birthday, and then at a later date got the following 3 episodes which had the Slitheen on, and because in a weird way, even though they terrified me, going back to them again was like reliving that experience in a strange way, just overcoming fear and watching those episodes that I like enjoyed so much, and I still enjoy today, even though I know that a lot of people don't really like those 2 Slitheen episodes, but they're definitely my kind of gateway episodes, shall we say, and they're probably my fondest memories of Who related stuff.
No, that's fair. It's so weird, like looking back on it, because I think me and you have very similar experiences. Because we were the same age for a start. I was 9 when it started, and I only watched the first episode because, do you remember the old? Well, I don't know if you saw it at the time, but there was the trailers where Christopher Eccleston saying, "Do you want to come with me, like for the trip of a lifetime or whatever?" It was the TV trailer, basically. And I was watching TV with my parents. That came on, no idea what it was. Doctor Who, what's that? Never heard of it. And my dad, who obviously had watched it when he was a kid in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, he said, "Oh, that's coming back then, is it? Oh, and they looked at me and said, 'Oh, you're the right age for this. You should watch it. You'll like it.'"
Aww.
So I was like, all right, fair enough. So when it was on, I sat down and yeah, I was hooked. And like that whole thing of plastic dummies coming to life, like you sort of can deal with it now. But as you say, like when you're 9 and seeing it, and when you see them in like the shops all the time, that was a big deal. And I'm ashamed to say it now, but after seeing Dalek, I had nightmares about Daleks for weeks. I genuinely found them terrifying, especially in that first episode.
I never had like that fear for Daleks, but I remember when I did watch when I had my first Doctor Who like experience, that there was like the 2 weeks between when Aliens of London came out and when Dalek came out. I was told about the Daleks, that they were the big kind of bad guy of the show, but in my head, the image of a Dalek was so totally different from what actually appeared on screen that I think, if memory serves, I was quite disappointed with them.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's again. That's interesting. You had that experience because when the title came on, obviously being called Dalek again, my mum and dad are going, "Oh, the Daleks are back," and I'd never seen a Dalek before, like ever. And I think it was mainly the voice, but I mean, this is going to get me some flack. I'll say this quickly and we'll wrap up because
sure, yeah.
But I think it was partly, the voice, the design, the fact you couldn't see until the end what was inside them. But I also partly blame Doctor Who Confidential for my nightmares, right? And this is going to sound so daft now, but for that episode, Dalek, they showed a montage of like the Daleks, from the classic series and the 2 60s movies, just of them like, doing what they do, killing people, destroying things, etc. But they played this montage with the background music of "Oh Fortuna."
Oh my god.
So you're like, "Oh Fortuna,"
yeah.
and their voice mixed in with it, and I don't know what it was, but the mix of that music and them like coming at you to the screen screaming "Exterminate," I found horrifying. And my nightmares would partly be that I'd see Daleks coming towards me with that music like ringing in my ears. So
Jesus.
Silly now, but yeah, Doctor Who Confidential, thank you so much for my PTSD towards Daleks. But no, we are on an hour, so Harry, mate, again, thank you so much for coming. It's been a blast chatting with you. I hope you've enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, I always appreciate being invited onto these things, man. I'll definitely be up for doing another one in the future with you, man. Of course.
No, absolutely, that'd be great, and I'll keep watching the videos. I believe you've just finished. You've just started the specials, haven't you? The Tennant specials.
That's right. Yeah, I've got 2 scripts ready for the Waters of Mars, and I also ended up writing. It's going to be exclusively on Patreon, but the Waters of Mars one, the video will be on the channel, but the I missed an episode, the Unquiet Dead, the Charles Dickens episode.
Yeah.
I've gotten a script ready for that as well, which will the video for that one will be exclusively on Patreon, but Waters of Mars will definitely be on YouTube probably within the next week or so.
Amazing. And guys, if you're listening and aren't already, go and subscribe to Harry on YouTube and follow him on Twitter as well. Are you on any other platforms, or are those your main 2?
Discord and it's just mainly Twitter and Discord outside of YouTube.
That's fair. And also, congrats on nearly being at 100k.
Oh,
I think
getting so close.
No, I looked this morning. It was like 99k. I was he's getting there. But no, you'll get that play button. Think about that play button. So, but no, yeah, go and subscribe to Harry, follow him on Twitter, and join the Discord server. All of that lovely stuff. And yeah, just once more, man, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, man. All the best.
Cheers, man. And for you guys listening, until the next installment, we will catch you next time on AMTV Radio. This program has been brought to you in part by our producer and director patrons. With your support, you help keep AMTV running and the programs coming to your screens. Thank you. And that does bring us to the end of another evening here on AMTV. We hope you enjoyed the program, and we hope to see you next time. Good night.